the market. Yes. It is the sweetener that helped me to kick my sugar addiction. And I am also the founder of Sarah Nutritional Therapy, or SARNT, SAIRNT. That stands for Sugar Addiction Israel Nutritional Therapy. And so I want to welcome you to today's broadcast. We are streaming live on Facebook at SAIRNT, YouTube at SAIRNT, Instagram, let's see if it came across, but it's at Some Sweet Foods, Twitter at Some Sweet Foods, Twitch at SAIRNT as well. So just welcome, welcome, welcome. And we have a guest with us today that's going to be joining us. So she is in the back room. And let me make sure. Yes. So, little real quick housekeeping here. Don't have any recalls that I know of today to announce, which is really good. Want to remind you to drink your water 4 bottles per day. And also want to remind you that if you don't know what your risk is for type 2 diabetes, please go over to the American Diabetes Association. They have an assessment over there that you can take that will let you know what your risk is for type 2 diabetes. So that is all that I have today. I'm short and sweet with the intro today, with everything that's going on today. So excited. I'm going to post up a video. I know I said that I would show you live the video of the space that I'm in, but I was not able to go live. I don't know. It wasn't working for me as far as, like internet connection, even though, cell phone connection and all that, but this wasn't working. So I do have a video that I will post of the space so that you guys will be able to see the space, and I'll post it on YouTube, and maybe I'll share that on TikTok, and you'll be able to see it over there. TikTok at SAIRNT. Just want to remind you that you can get the rebroadcast of this as an audio version. It will be where you get all of your podcasts from, and it will be there as well. So, and that is SAIR. SARNT, or SAIRNT, stands for Sugar Addiction Israel Nutritional Therapy. So you'll be able to get that there if you want to do that. Go ahead, be sure to type your comments, send your comments for any questions, anything that you want to add. Join in with the conversation with us today, because we're having a conversation, and I'm reaching over here to turn my heater down, to join in the conversation with us, as we're going to be talking to Gina Newton today. So I sent her the invite, and let's see if she actually got it. I believe she did. So she's backstage, and we're going to bring her on right now. So let's hope it works. Yes, yes, yes.
Hi, Teresa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Great, great, great. So, okay, there you are. It always takes a minute to just kick in. Yes. So, just welcome to today's show. Welcome, welcome. This is Gina Newton, and she's going to share with us her journey as a personal trainer, and how sugar affects us and all of that good stuff. So, Gina, the floor is yours. Tell us your story
Oh,
and all that good stuff.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. Teresa, is there any way I have a little bit of feedback. Hold on one second.
Okay. Okay, we can't hear you, just so you know. I can't hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
How's that?
Great, great. Oh, I hear the feedback. I hear feedback. Not sure what that is.
I don't know why that is, Teresa.
I wasn't hearing this before.
you mute while I talk.
I don't think, okay, I can try, we can try that. Let's see.
Let's try that because I don't hear the feedback. Do you? No. So just flag me down if you want to interrupt me. So, because I don't hear anything now. So, thank you for having me. My name is Gina Newton. I am a spiritual and holistic lifestyle coach. My journey started, sugar actually is at the center of my journey. About 4 years ago now. It really was almost, it really was about 6 years ago, to be honest. Um, my father, um, my father was a type 2 diabetic. He ate a lot of sugar. He ate a lot of refined carbohydrates. We are an Italian family, and culturally, there's a lot of pasta and a lot of bread. And, my dad actually had some sort, some spirit trauma to his spirit. And so my dad actually took a lot of comfort in his food. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. Some people call ourselves emotional eaters. We sort of turn to food when we're stressed. And my dad certainly fell into that category. And, I always remember he had a little pound cake at the corner of his kitchen. At the time of his passing, I believe that my father would probably take between 30 and 50 pills a day, and he thought it was funny. He was on insulin. Uh, and, he actually had really tried to start changing his habits. But what I knew to be the center of some of his habits was sugar. And then for me personally, I also had a sugar addiction. I still can sort of be called in that direction. But what happened for me was I decided to strip sugar out of my diet completely about 2.5 years ago now. And I could not believe the change in my overall well being, in my overall mental status, once I had taken sugar out of my diet. And so my business has since changed. I'll just wrap up here. My business has since changed because it's evolved. But my business name actually started with Tame the Sweet because I actually started by just focusing with my clients on how to sort of identify this habit and make simple changes in the diet, in their eating habits, to have less sugar in their day.
So, can you tell me what are some of the changes that you saw when you quit sugar?
So when I quit sugar, what I found most was a massive reduction in my anxiety. I have always been an anxious person, and I do believe that there's a variety of factors that contribute to anxiety. But for me, at the center was 100% sugar. My husband's a beer brewer, so I have beer on tap in my house. When I was potty training my daughters, I would buy big vats of jelly beans, and I would use the jelly beans to potty train them, and then I would sit on the couch and eat them every night myself. And when I made this change and took the sugar out, I just felt incredibly less anxious, just more grounded, more sort of more peaceful, just more. I don't really want to say, I hate to say in control, but like I felt more in control of my mind and body. And what I find is that if I do have a lot of sugar, because I don't have a lot of it in my day to day, that I very quickly know it. And one of the key indicators for me is negative thinking patterns. Sometimes, yes, very much. So, I can sort of, if I go to a birthday party and maybe I'll have a glass of wine and maybe I'll have a piece of cake. The next day, I find myself sort of blue. Or sort of this catastrophic thinking may come about, and I sort of have to sit there and be like, why am I feeling this way? And I'm like, that's right, I did this last night. And there's no shame, I don't want there to be any shame. I don't want there to be any self criticism. And I don't want it to be like, I shouldn't have done that. We all deserve to have joy. But I really firmly believe that we should be, across the board, limiting if not any intake of refined sugar in our diets. So,
And in fact, they, when they talk about that, we actually get too much sugar because of everything that we consume extra sugar. So, like at least 9 teaspoons when we have soda, and things like that. And even things like a Gatorade, because like I was a Gatorade junkie, and there's a lot of sugar in that, even though you can't taste it. Can you share with us, because you trained your daughter with jelly beans. You said you trained your daughters using jelly beans. How has your quitting sugar impacted them?
I'm not going to lie to you, like they really want it. Like I wish I could lead by example. But what I will say is, I just don't keep a lot in the house. So, if they are outside the house and they do see it, they're like, "Oh, I really want that. I've never had that before." Like honestly, I don't think they had Doritos until like in the last 2 or 3 months. And you know what? Like I actually would love to just kind of focus on foods like that. Doritos, bread, nuts, just anything that sits on a shelf. I I have spent a lot of time in grocery stores looking at labels, and it's very, very hard to find some of these foods without added sugar. But actually, getting back to my daughters, they want the sugar, but they actually know, like, mom, I know, mom, like we've had a lot of sugar today, so we probably can't have any more of that, right? And I'm like, yeah, like we went to a birthday party, you had a good time, but no, we're not going to come home and have like more sugar. And especially like before they go to bed, because they are very sensitive to it. I mean, I see the changes in their behavior and just actually their ability to go to sleep, and that actually worries me because, of course, we all need sleep. So I'm pretty meticulous about when and how much sugar they have, but I can't say that that they don't want it because they're kids and they have a lot of friends. I mean, that's kind of a different thing is when they're in school, they're kind of looking at everybody's lunch and saying, why don't we have that? Why don't we have that? And I just, I'm like, everybody's mom makes a different choice. And these are the choices that your mom makes. But I also try to like let them experiment sometimes. So, but we really have minimal in our foods every day. I can tell you that.
And I do the
And I
same
do
thing.
the same thing.
Okay, I do the same thing. Yeah, my daughter, I took her. I pretty much I limit the sugar. There's no sugar in the house, so we don't bring anything in. And if she does want something, then it's like she gets it one of that. Because when that time of the month comes around, it's kind of like she's like, and I'm like, okay, then that's it. So there's no more at any other time, except for maybe that time. But she knows not to have a lot of sugar. So I'm always curious as to how other people's children react to that, especially when we withdraw from sugar and how it impacts the family. So tell us a bit more about your practices, your personal fitness, your business, how you work with clients and things like that.
Sure. So, I actually start off with all of my clients. So that, my work has sort of evolved beyond nutrition and movement and physical training. So that is absolutely 100% part of what I coach people around. But it honestly starts with, for me, like people's food and eating patterns are very informative. And so, you know, I'm just onboarding a new client this week. And actually, it's super interesting when I start going through and seeing how people are eating. So, what I see a lot is either no eating or a late night eating and a lot of packaged food eating. And so that's kind of how I start working with people is I sort of um, I get the backbone of their eating habits to the point where they're not restricting, they're not depriving, they're enjoying their life, they're not hungry. But I start weeding out some of these packaged foods because in my mind and in my heart, they are just riddled with sugar. And especially with someone who has a lot of anxiety, and the clients I work with are anxious perfectionists. And so what I find is they're eating a lot of packaged foods. They may, not always, maybe wine drinkers. And so, it's sort of identifying that, yes, wine has a lot of sugar in it. And so ultimately, what I do with people is I work on their movement habits and their nutrition habits. And then my business sort of progresses to, inner work, mindset work, inner child healing. Because in my own personal journey, around the time I was, experimenting with withdrawal of sugar, I also was in some deep physical pain. I could not walk. I could not sleep because my body, honestly, I had a lot of trapped energy and trauma in my body. And so by balancing my eating habits and the way I move my body, and doing some of this inner healing work, and mindset shifts, I don't even remember. I'm not in pain. Like, I do not even remember like what it felt like, or I most days I forget that I was in that sort of pain. Um, but it really sort of, and I actually will say, like, I actually tested for positive for COVID-19 today. And but to be honest with you, I think looking at me or listening to me, you wouldn't know that. And I really, really think that that's a testament, to how I take care of myself. As soon as, and this started with my daughter, she caught it in school. And, the first thing I said to my husband was, we've got to build up our immunity and make sure our immunity is as strong as it can be. And to be honest, I was like, oh, I feel like baking cookies. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bake cookies because that was just going to be a main line of sugar in my body for the week. And so I didn't do that. And honestly, like, I'm very blessed to lead a very normal, privileged COVID, because I am not that sick. Like, I have like a little nasal congestion and I'm tired. So, and I really firmly believe that is because I do not eat a diet that's heavy in packaged food, and I do not eat a lot of sugar. I don't drink every night. And I really, really, and I really wanted to bring that up to the listeners because COVID-19 is like a sort of, it's a mystery. Even dealing with it this week, nothing makes sense because half my family got it, half my family didn't get it. But what I knew to be true is I felt, and I know that because of how we care for ourselves and our bodies, and that we don't eat a lot of sugar, I think that made all the difference in the world the way that it manifested here in our house.
Absolutely. I'm trying to unmute. I agree 100%. Because part of what has been shown to happen, well, that sugar um, reduces your immune system by 30%. Anyway, when you eat it. So if you're just going back to back, you're just getting more and more reductions with sugar. And then it's, for it's up to 2 hours or more that your immune system is reduced. And so staying off of sugar is one of the best things you could do. And then the second thing is that the virus itself uses insulin to strengthen itself. So yeah, no sugar in the diet is the best thing, is the absolute best thing that you could do. So we wish you a speedy recovery, even though you're doing well, but we wish you a speedy recovery. So tell us just a little bit more about some of the things that you do. Share with us the other things, some other things that you do in your practice. You mentioned that you do the inner work and the holistic healing part. Can you tell us does how are people's how is that affecting that inner work when they come off of sugar?
I love this question. So, I guess even to add to this, so I have spent, and I still work there part time, I've spent my whole career in the pharmaceutical industry. And so I spent a lot of time working to develop therapies for cancer patients. And what became clear to me, and this sort of all converged, like I said, about 6 years ago, was we're so busy reacting to illness, and we don't have a focus on disease prevention. And what I found in from the family members close to me, so my dad passed from severe cardiovascular disease secondary, and Alzheimer's secondary to severe cardiovascular disease. And what they said was my dad had his pancreas like was no longer making insulin for so long, and he had so much sugar in his bloodstream that it was degrading his blood vessels in his brain. And my dad is sort of like your typical, my dad was a truck driver. He worked at a gas station. He loved to hang out with his friends. He was a race car driver. He's kind of just a regular guy. And I just feel that his story is worth mentioning, one, to honor him because I miss him. But when he was going through what he was going through, I knew I was seeing this. I am spiritual, I'm religious. I was like, God is making me see this for a reason. And I believe the reason was for me to come and speak about it and to help people sort of look at themselves and evaluate this for themselves, to say, maybe I need a change. Maybe today's the day I decide to make a change to feel better, to feel better in my body, to love myself more, to wake up every day with energy, to go to bed feeling like I've, enjoyed my day, and that I've lived a full life. And so, when my dad and then my aunt, who was like my mom, passed from ovarian cancer, and when she was first diagnosed, they said, well, you are obese, and high estrogen contributes to cancer growth. And then another, my uncle, who was like a father, same thing. He had a form of lymphoma, and sort of things progressed from there, just with like different parts of his body. And ultimately, these three people were all type 2 diabetics. And I know two of them were insulin dependent. I don't think the third, what my aunt was, but I know she was taking some sort of metformin, maybe, for her diabetes. And I know that, and I lost them in the matter of a year and a half, the three of them. And they were like really my pillars. And so, what it showed me was I wasn't living my purpose, and I needed to take this forward and tell people about it so that they can really consider making these changes for themselves. And so when I work with my clients, what I try to do with them from a nutrition perspective is clear out the sugar cobwebs. So when you're eating a lot of sugar and a lot of packaged food, it is causing changes in your body and in your brain. And, when you clear out the sugar, I mean, you're more grounded, and you can see clearer and think clearer. And so it's sort of like my first step with people is, all right, I really don't want you eating a lot of sugar every day. And you know what? Like, most people that I work with are really receptive to that, and they're making the sort of changes to say, I can think of like so many things that I see people eating a lot, like the coffee creamers, tons of sugar. The beautiful Starbucks drinks, tons of sugar. And those are the sort of things where I'm like, okay, if you really love that Starbucks drink, can we go down to like having it once a week? even once a month, even. But it's sort of like I have, and I'm intuitive, I'm highly sensitive. I really feel things about people. And like, I can sit with someone and be like, I know your body doesn't want as much of this. And I know that if you remove some of this from your body's going to feel better. And so when I sort of get past that with the people I work with, then it really comes down to the mind work. I tend to work with a lot of like um, anxious, overachieving perfectionists. Um, and we sort of start honing in on, you know, what makes them this way, right? Some people cannot step away from their work desk in under 10 hours. And I'm always trying to dig in, like, we live in a culture where productivity is rewarded and rest is seen as lazy. And, I'm trying to be more for you are worthy regardless of the number of hours you work in a day. You deserve rest no matter what, because our bodies call for it. And that, I think, is at the center of the work is, and I can say this about sugar, I think sugar gets in the way of your intuition, your gut, your inner voice. And so if you are, once you clear out some of that sugar, your inner compass, your inner work, your inner voice, that becomes louder, as well as many other practices I sort of implement with people, like meditation, movement, journaling. But I sort of think of sugar as making like cobwebs within our bodies and within our brains. And it's not that I never have it. I quite enjoy different desserts and things, but it's just not my everyday, 5 times a day. It's really something that it's almost like an event for me. Like going out for an ice cream is like a sort of event, rather than keeping the gallon in the freezer and having it call to you. And that's sort of what I get at with people too, is that emotional calling, the sugar addiction, right? The body does become addicted. Um, I just saw somebody was having something recently. I wish I could think of it. And I was like, oh, I don't want you having this. It's sort of like it just becomes, your body craves it. Your body calls for it. Sugar wants more sugar. It is a fact.
I'm over here nodding in agreement. Yes, yes, yes. Because I know I was a sugar addict and like totally addicted to sugar. That's why and I mean, like your whole story, it I can so identify with it because and the same thing with me, my family members, losing them as type 2 diabetics. And it's just like, it's like, oh man, like, why can't they stop? Why can't they stop? And then looking at myself going, you're going to be next if you don't stop. You need to stop with the sugar. And so, yes, yes, everything that you said is so true, because I mean, I totally identify with it. Because and people need to hear this, because we don't they don't think of sugar as being addicted, or they think of it as just like this, like when they especially when you crave it like I did. And you, like you said, sugar craves sugar, so you just keep that constant craving going. And for me, I know that I say I stacked my sugars, and then it's so much sugar to where I couldn't even taste the sweet anymore. It was bitter, you know? And I would eat sugar that much, and it's like, oh my God, and it took me realizing that I was addicted to it, and like how I break that addiction in order for me to like completely stop. Do you have to explain to your clients when you're trying to help them why this is so bad for them? Do you give them the stories? I'm muting myself now.
100%. I really do. It sort of just gets, I feel that the sugar just sort of gets in the way. And one thing I wanted to ask you, and maybe you can save it for, you can answer now, but like, I guess I would tell the listeners to Well, one, I'm always for like a short term elimination, right? So I find it hugely effective, even if you said like for 3 to 7 days, I'm not going to have any sugar. And then you bring it back. Like, what happens to you? I can tell you what happens to me. Literally, my heart comes out of my chest. And so I want to tell people that, and I want people to think about doing that for themselves, because if this is your constant and you have a rapid heart rate, it's a sugar. And and then I wanted to ask you too, like if you do have sugar, so that's the things that I've noticed is I have such little refined sugar that when I do have it, my body is very reactive towards it because it's not used to it. And the same with my kids. I can see very quickly, I mean, as most parents can with young children and sugar, but you can see that they're all of a sudden they're bouncing off the walls and they're sort of like extra silly. And you know everyone, I can't say that, I want to generalize, but a lot of people like just sort of, I'm like, nah, it's the sugar. No, yeah, they're just, that's the sugar. Dismiss. But this is a cumulative thing, right? Years and years and years. And I think about this a lot with my kids is I'm forming their palate today. And so, the palates of today are the consumers of tomorrow. And look, we know full well of manufacturers that are sitting in labs making food addictive, and they're making it addictive with sugar. So, I sort of urge, if you're listening, to really think about the impact of sugar. Like, where is it in your day to day? How is it impacting your body? And, like, I was wondering this too, like, sugar tastes different to me now. Like, I can actually taste chemical. I know you feel this, Teresa. Sugar actually, when you step away from it for a little bit, it has like a real chemical taste. I can.
It is so funny. I think you can taste the difference. Sugar has a different there is a different taste between high fructose corn syrup and sugar. And sugar is not as sweet as you think it is because high fructose corn syrup is so much sweeter. And people don't realize that when you stop eating sugar, you actually taste the sugar in fruits and veggies. And you ask the question, do I eat sugar? No, I do not. I don't eat sugar. That's why I made the some sweet when I want something sweet or feel like I want a dessert. I will use that, and I completely avoid desserts and things from the store. I don't buy it. In fact, I was in the store. I think I mentioned this yesterday's broadcast. I was in the store, and I was just going to get some little like turkey links, like a smoked type sausage, just like a little, I don't know what you call it, jerky type of product, and it had high fructose corn. So I got it, and I was like, "You don't want it?" I was like, "Yes, I do, because I want some protein. I just want some meat." So then look at the back of the package. So I looked at the ingredients: high fructose corn syrup solids, dextrose, and nitrates. And then I just said, and put it down and put it back, because no, I don't eat sugar. So if I want a piece of candy, I will get the sugar substitute candy with allulose or maltitol or whatever. Maltitol gives me gas out this world, but if I absolutely have to have it and have a craving, that's what I'll get. But it's fruits and veggies for me, and I'm glad to be sugar free. And
Yeah,
yes, the
no.
heart.
I think I do a lot of the same. Like, I'd rather grab a clementine after dinner. That just feels good. And this is kind of the work I do with people overall, and food and how you feel in your body with different foods. Like, my work is actually helping people tune into their bodies. And, you know, tuning in to how you feel when you have a clementine versus how you feel when you have, I don't know, 6 cookies. Like, there's so much there, right? Um, and some of what I find, and the work I do is like a lot of guilt and shame around some of these habits. And Some people just don't know. And that's like, you know, label reading is like one of the best things you can do for yourself is train yourself to automatically read labels. Like I can't stop, honestly. Like I read labels all the time, and I'm not going to lie, when they were, and they still may be doing this, they're touting high fructose corn syrup as a natural sugar. They're like, oh, it's natural. No, not at all, it's not. But read your labels. Like, you're probably, once you start, you're not going to be able to stop, because you will be shocked and appalled. I actually took many hours once looking for bread for my girls with no sugar in it. It's incredibly hard to find. It's incredibly hard to find. And, like, do we talk about like why people put sugar in? Because it makes it more addictive, and it keeps more of a shelf life. And it's a filler, it's a cheap filler for food. So, there's a lot of unfortunate things that go on in our food industry. And loading our food with sugar, is one of the things that's driving a lot of, poor health. A lot of our society is in poor health, and um, it's unfortunate that a lot of people only have access to these foods. That is all they have. I think I was talking. I live outside of Boston, and I think it's improved now, but there was certain neighborhoods of Boston where there was no major supermarket, only these convenience stores. And so if you don't have the means to get to the supermarket, you're relying on those convenience stores. We know there's nothing good in there. So it's a food industry thing, it's a access challenge. But I think the more people that hear this, mindfulness and awareness are everything in life. And we all have the ability to make these small changes. Even just dropping one thing in your day to day that you have for sugar is going to help you.
100%, because like I would tell people, you, if you can't do it cold turkey, because I couldn't do it cold turkey. I wasn't even willing to, I was not even willing to try. I mean, no, it just wasn't going to happen. But so I took a step down approach, a methadone approach. But I, like you said, cut back from, a Starbucks every day or 3 times, however many times you eat it, cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. I went from, with my sweetener, to come off of sugar so that I wasn't eating any more sugar, to now I barely even eat the sweetener, because I can just eat, like, I mean, I just remember I was so surprised when I could just drink unsweet tea with and my daughter's like, that's gonna be nasty. I was like, no, actually, yeah, I can taste the bitterness, I can taste everything in it, but it was quite refreshing, and I could just drink it now, and I don't even put sweetener in. So if I have sweetener, if I want to add it, I do. If I don't, I drink it anyway. But there was a time that that was not even possible, and you have to work at it to get there. Know yourself, know your body, find out what works for you, and then get there. But you have to, I say to everybody, you have to do something, because the diet that we have is making obesity. It's global. Obesity is a global wide problem. It's not just here. Everywhere there's and I said this yesterday, I think everywhere there's a McDonald's, there is this obesity problem, because the sad diet has made its way there. And they already had all the stuff they were doing to their different foods. Now you bring this in, and then, it just makes things that much worse. So people really, they need help, and they need this message. So back to you.
No, and so, I end up, this is always the backbone of how I work with people. And, but I am, one thing I'm very passionate about is positive body image. And I don't, um, how do I say this? Like I try not to make foods good and bad, but I try to get people to tune in to how do you feel when you have too much of X? 100% sugar is always at my forefront, right? Um, because I do not get many people who are like, I just never want to have sugar again. And like they're willing to reel it back. Um, but but I also say this for sugar, I say this for dairy, I say this for gluten, I say this, you know, our body is sensitive to, and everybody's body is different. So, you started to say this is nothing is a one size fits all. So I can tell you that across all my clients, no one's eating the same thing. But I just sort of advocate for your diet to be very rich in protein, fruits and vegetables, healthy fats like avocados and avocado oil, olive oil. And then I sort of say, like, okay, then like try to stay with whole foods, and, limit as much as you can packaged foods. But I feel like I need to clear out the cobwebs of sugar before I can help people, like, with some of this deep healing work. And, my journey for my clients, or my hope for my clients, is I want them to heal their minds to heal their bodies. So a lot of people come to me with actual physical pain, emotional pain, a lot of emotional eaters, food fear, and so we sort of sort through, what are the drivers to some of those patterns and behaviors. And, it's this emotional eating, and sort of, I'm sure you can relate, is like, even if there is something in my house, which there isn't very often, but like it sort of calls you from the closet. It's like, oh yeah, hey, come on, have me. Um, but it's sort of like I always say, if the problem isn't hunger, the answer isn't food. And look, we've all lived through this pandemic. Being a parent is hard work. And the clients that I work with are typically women, they're mothers, and they are not taking care of themselves. And so the work I do is coming back to the person, healing the body from, too much sugar, too much packaged or processed foods, and then, moving their bodies, but then it's their spirit. So, you know, I think we can eat perfectly and meticulously, and we can exercise a lot, but if your spirit is not, we don't support our spirit, and we don't do things like, that bring us pleasure and happiness, that I think is, I always say that about my dad, like his body was sick and his body had too much sugar in it, but his spirit was also broken. And so, that's the most important part of my mission, is heal the mind, heal the body, and really spend your days doing what you love, and, discovering like what lights you up. A lot of people don't know that, what that answer is. And, we cannot live our lives, sort of in the hamster wheel. It wears on us, and it manifests in the body. And if we look around us, you talked about obesity, cancer rates are insane, heart disease is insane. Obviously, COVID has taken a lot of lives in the last 2 years. And there's a lot of data to suggest that some of these comorbidities have made a lot of people more vulnerable to COVID. So, sugar for me is 100% at the center of this. It's one of like my key things that I deter people, from having too much of. So I think I covered, um, I think I covered everything. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people too, like, will get up in the morning and have a Coke like that. I really try, like, I'm just, I, you will never find soda in my house. Because that, I don't know, is there, you probably know more than me. Is there anything more that has more sugar than a soda, which is like 36 grams? Maybe some of those monster drinks.
I'm not really sure what has more. I know that Mountain Dew is the top on soda with the sugar. So I know it has more sugar than even than Coke and Pepsi and all of that. So I know it's the top. But I don't know anything that really, when you're drinking anything as far as that has more sugar than soda. Soda is the top. Um, 12 teaspoons, I think, for Mountain Dew. For one just average can of Mountain Dew is like 12 teaspoons. The other one is like, then it starts to work its way down 10. And then I know the Gatorade, which is the 32 ounce, has 9 teaspoons. So I know that because that was and it doesn't even taste like anything. It doesn't even taste like it's got 9 teaspoons of sugar in it, but it's got 9 teaspoons of sugar in it. So yeah, there's nothing. I mean, soda, I think very early on for me, I cut out soda, and I cut out juice. I think one of the two of the sweetest juices that you can actually get, they're natural. I don't believe they have any added sugar to them, but it's so concentrated on the sweetness, is apple juice and grape juice. They're so super sweet. And even when they give that to people on the WIC program, the different food programs, and they give that to people, and so people are buying that because they think that it's good and it's natural, but it is natural. Juice is natural. But when you strip it of the fiber, it's just left with the sugar. And that is concentrated. And so I never even gave my children apple juice or grape juice without it being at least a half to three quarters of water, because it is just absolutely too sweet. And even at that, I know now that was too much sugar.
Actually, I was listening to something in the last, I don't know, year, and it was talking about how it was sort of talking about the evolution of sugar. Oh, that's what it was. This is a very good topic. So, it was talking about the evolution of sugar and our diet and how, you know, the like recommended amount of sugar is like less than 10 grams a day or something like that. And in the United States, we're having like between 100 and 150 grams. It's something like this. Don't hold me to the numbers. And then they said, and it's spreading globally. And I loved what these experts were saying, and I believe it's true. And it said, we've got this rampant sugar problem, not only in the US, but across the globe. And they were like, this is impacting international decision making. And it was really it was very big comment or statement. It's not wrong. It's not wrong because if you have if you have like key leaders who are, you know, eating a high sugar diet, it is impacting big global international decisions. Like, it was just a really interesting thought. It was like sort of like going from this, recommend 10 grams or less of sugar a day. If you look at some of like a packaged Cliff Bar or something like that, that itself I think is like 10 to 15 grams in that bar. So that's not even including the rest of your day. So I just thought it was a really interesting comment. One, the reference of like, here's what's recommended, here's what people are typically having, 100 to 150 grams a day. But that this is like impacting global international decision making. And they're not wrong.
That's really amazing. We never stop to think about such things, and how those people could be experiencing sugar withdrawals because they haven't had a meal, and so now they're hangry, and now they're not wanting to agree with one another and make decisions. It's really crazy. That's really something. So can you tell us, in we still have a few minutes here, tell people where they can find you, and give all your social medias, excuse me, all of that, and let people know where they can find you and anything else that you got going on that you want to share.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, my website is healingwithgina.com. You can sort of find the background, the services I provide. I do mostly one-on-one coaching, and I do some physical training, and I run private yoga, and I also do Reiki healing. And Reiki, you asked me about some of my holistic healing. Reiki is working with life force energy. And, I'm a scientist by training, and it's a little hard as a scientist to wrap your mind around Reiki. But being a highly intuitive person, I can literally feel people's energy, and, I connect. I had a client that I worked with the other day, and I just kept something kept coming up about her mom. I was like, there's something going on with your mom. And, I always kind of download my info before they tell me what they feel. And this person I didn't know whatsoever. And she goes, you're 100% right. Like, I do have a lot of stuff going on with my mom. So I love doing Reiki. And so I do that virtually, actually, and in person. And I live outside of Boston. And my Instagram handle is at Gina period M period Newton. My Facebook has my maiden name in it, so it might be tough to remember, but it's Gina Monteforti Newton on Facebook. But healingwithgina.com is the best way, because then you can get to both of my social platforms.
All right. So I was trying to type in that instagram.com/Gina.Newton. Uh-oh.
Sorry. At Gina.M.Newton. Yes, exactly.
Right. So this has been a very interesting day because with this I was really excited to talk with you because I know that we would key in together on that sugar and be able to hammer down on that on sugar, and it's like, oh man, when it's going to be really good. Well, they're all really good, so no shade to any of my past guests. But when it's gonna be really something, then it always something like has to happen to try and mess it up to stop the message from getting out. But it didn't work today because you all got that news. Y'all got that word, cut back on the sugar. It is so important. And I just wanted to add this to what you were saying about that. When you mentioned about your dad and how sugar was affecting and how it was the diabetes was or the sugar eating hit with his brain, that people, if you don't know this, they call dementia and old age brain diseases, they call that type 3 diabetes. And they are not advertising that or promoting that out the way that they should. So that people need to know that you really need to cut back on the sugar because it's impacting our lives more than we know. Gina, I'm going to let you have the last word, the finals on this. So I'm going to do the out, but give us your parting thoughts, any parting words, anything that you want to share.
Well, once again, Teresa, thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for listening. If there's anything you leave the conversation with today, is that, we are given one body, and that body needs nourishment and love. And that's what it's about. It is not about how you look. It is not about what size you are. It is really about what goes on inside the body, making sure the body is strong and nourished to carry you through your days to live a long life. Because I don't know about you, listeners, I want to live a long life. And, I know I have seen too many people in my life gone too soon. And so, if you leave here today and you make one change as it relates to having less sugar in your diet, listening to your body more, shifting your mindset, then, I've served my purpose today on this episode. And, I would really love to hear from you if this episode landed with you. And once again, Teresa, thank you so much for having me.
Well, Gina, I want to thank you for joining me today. And everyone, please go check out her website, healingwithgina.com. I did capture the Instagram.com/Gina M. I'm sorry, /Gina.M.Newton. So go over there. It's at Gina.M.Newton and healingwithgina.com. Please go check her out. Go visit her website. Reach out to her. Lots of great things can happen when you just talk to somebody because, we don't we don't know what we don't know, and oftentimes we do need help, and there are people here that can help, and Gina is one of those people. So everyone give Gina a round of applause. And thank you so much, Gina, for joining us. Again, if you want to catch the rebroadcast of this, it's going to be in audio. You can go over to SARENT, that stands for Sugar Addiction is Real Nutritional Therapy, wherever you listen to podcasts. Gina's going to have this wherever. Do you have a podcast, by the way?
I do not have a podcast. Someday, it's on my agenda.
Okay, well, you guys are going to be able to just go over there and get the podcast. She's going to have the video, just everything, look her up. Okay. Check this out. If you want to catch the rebroadcast of the live stream and you didn't catch everything on the video, go over to, it's at Facebook at SAIRNT, YouTube at SAIRNT, Twitter at Some Sweet Foods. It will be over there. Okay, everyone, please, you heard the message today. Take heed. This is a brand new year. You got an opportunity with a fresh start in 2022. So thank you, Gina, so much for joining us. And until next time, everybody, peace and blessings.